So apparently one of the little motherfuckers from Jubilee, who was in the Malicious video, got fired from his job. So we're gonna react to that real quick.
Well, this is awkward. Oh my goodness. So y'all remember that debate with Jubilee? It was Amanda Seales, and she was going against, 20 Black Conservatives? Lord in heaven.
Sir.
Now, out of that debate, there was two people that, that mainly stood out. That was the mofo that we come to find out is Angolian, not even Black American. Talk about Black Americans and our problems here. Crazy. And then the other black guy who was like, hey, Black people don't deserve reparations, okay? Why does a person who's sitting on the couch smoking weed and playing video games deserve reparations?
But why should people who are sitting at home playing video games, smoking marijuana,
are you sitting at home playing a video game?
Talking about that, hey, we don't have racism. We had a Black president.
And we have equal opportunity in this country. We had a Black president, just in case you didn't know. We had a Black president, and you know who voted for that Black man? White people. What's making America so racist is people that continue to talk about racism.
You are up. It's a shame that this motherfucker was a teacher. You know what I mean? Just blatantly spreading disinformation, lies, and just inaccuracies. It's just amazing. Never mind. Fucking idiot.
Just absolute goofball Sambo soldier propaganda. That's what it is, okay? The reason I call them Sambo soldiers because they are just militant with their Samboism, okay? They are militant with their tap dancing and minstrel show. It's something somewhat of a phenomenon. I will.
So this is me cleaning out my classroom because I resigned.
And what makes this even more funny, because I know that's funny, right? He's resigned, is that this individual was a teacher.
This goes to show you that it doesn't pay to sell out your own community. Now, a lot of people have made money from it, right? But does it actually pay? And that depends on how you look at pay, There's different types of currency. There's spiritual currency. There's the truth, authenticity, all of that. And that supersedes any sort of monetary value. And, there are worse people in society that have had platforms that have anti-blackness that are also Black. Internalized racism, colorism, self-hatred, whatever you want to ascribe it to. Same thing, really, at the end of the day. And, we can't get all of them. But we can get some of them. Exhibit A.
For Black kids. Lord in heaven, bruh. Having a demon like this, having a Black ignorant clearly from the lineage of evil, teaching Black kids. This is almost as bad as what's her name, the Biggest Loser trainer, adopting a Black girl and then talking about, everybody owns slaves. This is.
Oh no, that's atrocious. I feel sorry for that. I feel sorry for that girl, bro. You know she's going through it. And then talking about, everybody owns slaves. This is what these people do, okay? This is the type of Black teachers that they want to have in the schools. That's what they want to do. They want to have the Sambo soldiers teaching the Black kids how to tap dance and how to be minstrel shows. That's what they want. And what I find absolutely hilarious is the fact that he didn't get fired, okay? He resigned. But then he goes on to say that he was targeted, right? He talking like a victim because it confused me. Because I was like, well, what? What you mean? I had to give him the scoop. I thought he was against the victim mentality. Now he's claiming to be a victim. All that hypocrisy falls short once your pockets get empty. Once your pockets get emptied, all of a sudden people will switch their ideologies, which is crazy because if you really stood on what you believed in, no monetary value could sway you one way or the other. And I'm not saying that I support conservatism or imperialism or any sort of racist ideology at all. But if you're going to be racist or a self-hating Negro, at least stand on that through and through. Don't switch up once the money comes in. Because now you just contradicted your whole ideal, everything that you just contradicted the main point that got you fired. So it's like, pick a struggle.
We do, because he was talking all that hot mess.
Hey, we are victors and not victims, okay? We can't blame the white man for everything.
I refuse to embrace a victim mentality because that's not what our grandparents and Harriet Tubman and those people fought for.
And sure enough, he saw I was targeted. It was black Democrats. You know, it's liberal here. It's a Christian school.
And he misconstrued the works of the late, great Harriet Tubman. He definitely did, and that's disrespectful. And as a teacher, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
But it's liberal here. It's liberal here. And they got me up on some petty stuff.
Because I was targeted at my school for my political beliefs. So this is my classroom, me getting my stuff. And yeah, I was targeted. I was told in so many words that if you don't stop speaking about certain political things, that you will be fired. And then I was targeted afterwards with a bunch of petty stuff.
And it's like, hold on,
Now here's the thing. I want to provide a little bit of nuance. And I don't give people the benefit of the doubt, especially traitors to their own people. Having said that, you know, there is this sort of contradiction where it's like in this country, you can speak out against certain ideologies and not others, right? But that's a given because some ideologies are intrinsically rooted in hatred. And Black conservatism is one of them. You know, it would be like me preaching like 1930s Third Reich German ideologies in school without context, especially, right? Context is important. You're going to preach it, okay? Preach it, you know, provide the historical context behind it. And don't just make blanketed statements that discredit the efforts and the struggles of millions of your forefathers and foremothers and ancestors and people in general that have came before you, even people who supersede you. You know, Black conservatism isn't rooted in fact, it's rooted in conjecture, inherently. And so this is the repercussion of blatantly spreading lies. Now, the school system doesn't get a lot of things right at all, but they cooked here.
Pause. Let's rewind that one. What you mean petty stuff? What type of petty stuff were you doing that they just happened to force you to resign, Pimpin'?
Yeah, you gotta elaborate
How
on the
about
petty
you?
stuff.
How about you elaborate on the petty stuff that they held over your head? I'm very curious. Very curious. Because even right now, he's still trying to blame black people for his actions. Is that not hilarious?
And this is a Christian school, but it's predominantly black. These are run by black Democrats. And yeah, my classroom, and yeah, it's not right.
Does anyone see the...
He kind of looks like an inverted version of Ha Ha Davis, who is basically like a mini DaBaby, but whatever.
irony here? His actions led to him resigning. And what does he do? He doesn't take responsibility. He doesn't lift himself up by the bootstrap.
Nope.
What does he do? He blames other people for him resigning.
Yep.
And then goes on, you ready for the cherry on top of this stupid sundae? He then starts a give, send, go.
For all of y'all that have been asking, we started a GoFundMe, or not a GoFundMe, but a way where you can give us to help us out as we try to get it legal. We try to fight legally, or we try to pay for our expenses. Give, send, go. Reverend Jordan Wells, you can go fight. It's called.
Wasn't he just preaching against reparations and handouts? And now he's asking for handouts? You know what I'm saying? It's like once the dollar amount starts dwindling, you know, you start to see the interlopers and you start to see the frauds for what they actually are. You know what I mean? And this is different from like someone taking like an anti-capitalist stance and then asking for money. It's like you quite literally need money to survive. And people who are anti-capitalist are not like anti-survival. They're not fundamentally against things like assistance or handouts. 'Cause that's the whole, not handouts, but assistance, welfare, things like that. Because that's the whole purpose of their ideology, especially people who may be pro-communist or pro-socialist. But when you actively take a stance against welfare, against mutual aid, you know what I mean? Against reparations and handouts, it's just infinitely more embarrassing.
fired for now. It's called Fire for Speaking Now, Fight Back. And it's Jordan Wells.
You can't make this up, bro. You can't make this up. Why is it when these mofos get kicked out of the house, they then want to look to everyone else, will y'all help me? Master done kicked me outside. Look at my hands, they soft. I can't pick no cotton. This is what happens time after time after time after time, bro. Every
single time. This even happened to Candace Owens, the head coon. And Candace Owens lately has been speaking facts, but she only speaks facts when she's not talking about the black community. And this is how I know that these people are intentionally malicious, especially people on the right. Because they can speak facts against U.S. foreign policy, against other nations, if you know what I mean, against genuine global threats. Yet somehow when it comes to the black community, their brains turn off. They become cognitively indolent. And so Candace Owens is a prime example of this, I've seen her analysis of, that country. You know which country I'm talking about. And their influence in U.S. politics, and she's spot on. She's spot on every single time. For some reason, when it comes to the black community, the brain shuts off. And I know a lot of people who are like this. It's like when it comes to certain things, they just shut off their brains, especially when it comes to black people and their internalized racism and hatred that they have for the black community that they've been conditioned to have by the white man. And so I'm the type of person where I see this shit and I'm kind of not empathetic, but more so sympathetic in the sense that I know that you've been brainwashed and you didn't really have a lot of them didn't really have a choice. But then there are also plenty of people who just blatantly ignore something. In order to avoid or ignore something, you have to be aware of the fact that it's there. And that's why I say that it's malicious, because you're aware of the fact that your rhetoric is harmful and that it's just outright false. And that there are more salubrious and cognitively sound alternatives to explaining, the black community and the problems that persist. And yet you still opt for the most racist option every single time to appease your white fan base. Especially when you're literally in bed with white people. And then you try to give social commentary on things that affect the lives of black people. It doesn't help your case. It kind of just proves that you're basically like a traitor or an agent, against your people's own progress. And so you talk about Mossad all day long, and rightfully so. Yet here you are being an agent or being married to an agent against the black community. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's her fallacy, and she has to live with that, and every other black conservative has to live with that as well. There are consequences for your stupidity.
Time, this is what happens. You would think they would learn, bruh. Here's the crazy part. Pimpin', you didn't even make a check. You didn't even get a check off of your tap dancing. That's the craziest type of minstrel show I've ever seen. How do you do a full-on minstrel show? You are this close to tap dancing. You were that close, and you didn't even receive a check. No white people applauded you. No, you didn't go on Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens didn't invite you on the show. Piers Morgan didn't invite you on to talk about the black. Like, I don't understand. I think what happens is...
Yeah, that's the thing. The motherfuckers basically do that shit for no reason. You don't get nothing from that. You just do that shit for no reason. To appease people who would sell you out for 72 cents. There's no honor or no pride in that. That's the cowardice of conservatism. To appease people who don't give a I wish the fuck out. Man.
Is that they think that it's 2016. Because to follow up to the Give, Send, Go, he's asking for $5,000. He wants to talk about $5,000. And you know the spiel. You always know the spiel when, the white ignorance and the black ignorance of, Republicans, they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. They say the N-word or something and be like, they just want to attack me for free speech. That's always their go-to, always. And sure enough, right on cue, bruh. He's talking about, well, they trying to attack me for free speech. And, if y'all can give anything to it. We had Candace, a black woman, do it. Do you have anything different? Can you juggle? I don't know. Can you stand on your head? Like, what they are failing to understand
is that the whole black conservative, the whole walk away and everything. I'm an independent thinker. I don't listen to the Democrat lies. They're the real racists. All that, white people are tired of it, bro.
Here's the thing, and I said this in my Amanda Seals video. To be black and to turn away from the Democratic Party is not wrong. In fact, it's a really noble thing to do. It's very closely aligned with the truth. That doesn't mean you join the Conservative Party. And this is the problem with that dichotomous cognitive framework where you think it's either one or the other. And so you think that you have to automatically ascribe to the antithesis of a perspective, of a syllogism, of a point, or an ideology, rather than forming your own beliefs. And it's actually it's interesting that this happens, because this is actually a very almost liberal sort of cognitive process in a way. But I don't want to give it that sort of label, because it's actually just a human thing, especially in a westernized context where you're taught to think dichotomously or linearly, where you go from one point to the other, or point A to point B, or your line of thought is more of a spectrum than it is a cycle, or than it is independent. And so rather than seeing past the veils of, the dual party system, you ascribe to it even further, and you're like, you subscribe to it even further, and you're like, the Democrats are the problem, and they are a problem indeed. But you don't become a fucking conservative. That just triples the issue. And I said this before, it's like in Star Wars, you see that the Jedi are the issue, and then you join the Sith. You just made a worse problem, And so that's what black conservatives essentially are. They're like Anakin. They see the flaws of the Jedi, and so they end up joining a more corrupt system. I don't get it. And yes, I do think that the Democrats are 100% inherently evil. And I think there's this, this pervasive idea that you want to believe that your voice matters, that the political system is fair and just, and that it works for you, and that there's actually just something wrong with you. It's actually more cathartic to believe that you're the problem rather than the system, because of how ubiquitous the system actually is. And, the truth of the matter is quite the opposite. Truth of the matter is that it's all from the system that's the problem, not you. But you've been conditioned to believe that you are. That's that hive mind mentality. And so to the people like that, you just gotta kind of leave them behind, let them fend for themselves. They can do it. They're autonomous human beings. Anyway, I'm getting tired. Let me log off.